So, Corey, just bluntly, is this an attack on free speech itself?
Absolutely. This entire concept of age verification is a direct attack on free speech. No matter how much politicians want to say this is about protecting children, I'm not buying it. 100% this is about suppressing what is available on.
You're watching the Segpay News Network. Hello, it's Mark Pettit in the Segpay studio, and we are following breaking news out of Washington, where the U.S. Supreme Court has handed down a major decision involving a Texas law and age verification. That law is designed to keep minors from accessing adult content on the internet. We are very fortunate to have an expert on this subject to join us today to talk about what the court has decided and what this all means. So please welcome Corey Silverstein to the broadcast. Corey, I'll let you tell us what the court has decided and what this means, especially for merchants in the online adult space.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Mark. Really appreciate it. This is actually a historic day for the adult entertainment industry, free speech as a whole, First Amendment. This is a decision that we've been waiting for quite some time, and the United States Supreme Court came down and actually ruled in favor of Texas and ultimately determined that Texas's age verification law is in fact constitutional. They utilized a standard called intermediate scrutiny, which was unexpected. The state of Texas was actually asking for what's known as a rational basis review. The petitioners, led by the Free Speech Coalition, were actually asking for strict scrutiny, which is frankly what I believe it should have been as well. But ultimately, the Supreme Court actually went with a kind of a middle ground. They utilized the intermediate scrutiny approach and ultimately found that the law does pass constitutional muster. So as such, Texas's age verification law, according to the U.S. Supreme Court, is in fact constitutional.
For the average person, let's talk about what age verification means. Do you have to show a driver's license or a passport now to access adult content?
Well, it's going to depend on the state. And so ultimately, the ruling today is on Texas's law. Every state has the right to pass their own laws, which will have their own nuances. But in essence, for the average day, person that's watching, yes, in essence, what this is that before a user can go online and view what would be described as adult entertainment, typically defined as where the site has at least 1/3 of the content is adult entertainment related, that person would have to go through an age verification check, meaning they would either have to submit their government issued identification to the website, or they could go through a third party that the website is using that would ultimately verify the user's age before that user could see any of the content or get any further access to the site.
This lawsuit in Texas was brought by the Free Speech Coalition, and its executive director said today that this was a canary in a coal mine, that this was a bad day for the First Amendment and free speech in general. Do you agree with that?
I do. I know Allison Bowden, the executive director of the Free Speech Coalition, quite well. I've had many conversations with her during the pendency of this case, and I wholeheartedly agree with her. This is a terrible day for free speech. This is a terrible day for the First Amendment. So in case you haven't dabbled it yet, I completely disagree with the court's decision that they made today.
Let's talk about what it means specifically. I read that the content must not be harmful to minors. How do you determine what kind of content is harmful to minors?
Well, that's one of the many issues at play here, but ultimately, based on what the Supreme Court did today, it's going to be a very broad kind of view that I suspect the state of Texas is going to take. So really, we're talking about any sort of adult content, sexuality is probably going to fall into this definition, and the state of Texas will contend that that website needed to implement age verification.
Corey, as you know, a number of Segpay's merchants are in the adult entertainment space. Do you think this is going to have a chilling effect and damage those merchants in the long run?
I think in the long run, no, and I'll tell you why. Because ultimately, in the long run, I do believe that consumers do get used to the situation. Ultimately, the desire, the need, the want for purchasing adult content is there. And for the websites for the users that want it, they're just going to understand that this is a part of their new reality. So I don't believe this is going to be, a dramatic incident, like a earth-shattering moment where we're going to see sales falling off a cliff. I don't think that's going to be the case. I could see that there could be some short-term pain. That's certainly a possibility. But in the long term, adult consumers want what they want. And, the Supreme Court did not say that this in any way is a ruling on whether or not adult content is legal. This is just a issue of, is the state of Texas allowed to have a rule that requires people to age verify before they get access to that content?
This obviously affects sites like PornHub, and I'd heard that PornHub had shut down in Texas previously, not even allowing people from Texas to access the site. And just for research purposes, I checked a couple other states like Georgia today, and there's a countdown that in 3 days you won't be able to access the content in states like Georgia. What does that mean?
Well, well, ultimately, if a website doesn't want to comply with the state's law, like Pornhub did, if Pornhub doesn't want to comply with Texas law, they certainly have the option of geo-blocking the state of Texas. So if a user is in the state of Texas, they want to go to Pornhub. Pornhub certainly has the ability to turn off access. That is an option for those sites that just don't want to do age verification. Where the problem lies with today's decision is that this is really a unobstructed path now for many of the other states to move forward with the laws that they were thinking of putting in place, or laws that they already had in the process. Some of these laws already have other constitutional challenges to them, and most of those challenges have been stayed pending today's decision. Those cases are not looking very good for the petitioners at this point after today's ruling.
Corey, what does this mean for content creators, specifically like sites like OnlyFans? It's my understanding it doesn't matter where the content is made, it's where it's viewed. Is that accurate?
That's correct. It doesn't make a difference whether the content is created in Canada or Italy or somewhere in the United States. That's not what matters here. What matters is, where is the content being viewed? Where is the user trying to access the content from? So for major platforms like OnlyFans and such others, many of them already have put age verification in place, but the ones that haven't will be most certainly adding age verification in light of today's ruling.
This is not an issue just here in the United States. It's everywhere. We did a great interview with Ofcom recently about age verification rules and regulations there. It's not, but in a way, this could be helpful to the industry, don't you think? Because there are technologies that are coming online that don't require you to show a government ID, correct? There are multiple ways this could be enforced.
That's a difficult question because first of all, this is very fresh, and quite candidly, I am, as a lawyer, I'm very hurt by what the Supreme Court said today, because this isn't something that quite frankly, I didn't predict this. This is not what I thought was going to happen, and I'm dealing, with the frustrations of what the court did today. But ultimately, I don't particularly see it as necessarily a good thing, because I don't ever view requiring any person to have to share their identification before viewing a certain type of content to not be an infringement on their First Amendment rights and their free speech rights. So I don't necessarily think that this is a great day, but if you want to somehow find some silver lining here, yes, there should be a substantial boom in various different technologies and services that are offering age verification services. I know for a fact that those services are celebrating, and they're dancing in the streets today, because this is going to result in a pretty substantial financial whirlwind for them.
Corey, it seems like pornography is often on the cutting edge of things like this. You look back in history at people like Larry Flint, who literally got shot and almost killed in this business. Why do you think it is that adult content, pornography especially, is always targeted like this?
Well, the adult industry has been targeted since the beginning of time. There's always going to be those people that don't like adult entertainment, and whether they're part of a far-right political group, or for a religious reason, or for their own ethical beliefs, or whatever, The adult entertainment industry has been under attack since its inception. Nothing is going to change that. We're not going to ever see that change, even after today's ruling. It's not like we're going to see, some sort of backing off by the government. Quite the contrary. Right now, just as recently as this morning, North Carolina actually introduced another a law that would substantially inhibit free speech rights and the sharing of adult content. It's one of those things where it's the adult entertainment industry has always had a stigma, associated with it. I, of course, don't agree with it. I firmly believe that people should be left to their own privacy to do what it is, what they want to say, what they want to see. Unfortunately, there are going to be those that long after my career will still be trying to take on the adult entertainment industry and do as much as they can to hinder freedom of speech and try to eliminate adult content as much as possible.
There was some discussion, Corey, that people thought that the high court might just kick this back to the lower court and say, hey, y'all figure this out, Texas. Did you think that was what was going to happen?
I believed that they were going to say that this law should have been evaluated on a strict scrutiny basis and that it should be sent back to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals for an analysis under strict scrutiny. In the back of my mind, I knew that the possibility existed that they would do something with intermediate scrutiny only because they just did this to TikTok and the TikTok decision, and this was just something recent that was fresh on their minds. But this is not what I expected. I believe this case was going to get sent back to the Fifth Circuit, where they would have had to make a decision and evaluate the law on a strict scrutiny basis. Unfortunately, that's not what happened.
So, Corey, let's talk about the penalties here. I know that you've studied this a lot. What are the types of penalties? So let's take Texas, for instance. If a website is not compliant with the age verification law, what can happen?
The Attorney General can initiate an action against you, and there's very severe fines that go up. I believe they start at $10,000 per incident, but they can pile on. There's also a private cause of action in there, so that private lawyers who believe that they might have a client that was somehow damaged by viewing pornography, they could bring a private lawsuit against the service provider. And we've already seen both of those things happening now. We already saw the state of Texas go after platforms like Chatterbait, or they went after Xhamster. That was another one that Texas decided to already pursue other platforms. So I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if what we start seeing now is we do actually see a little bit of a ramp up from the states trying to go after companies who are not complying with age verification.
What's your advice to merchants in this space? Should they hire a lawyer? What's the next course here? What happens, Corey?
The adult entertainment industry is a fantastic multi-billion-dollar a year industry. Nothing is going to change that. The fact is that we're constantly going to see attacks, but the idea that the industry is just going to go away and they're not going to continue to thrive is I believe it's silly. But things are going to change and things are going to have to change. Now is the time for any website that is offering any sort of adult entertainment products or services. They need to be speaking with their attorneys so that they can evaluate the site properly on a state-by-state basis and even country to country now, because we know that the United Kingdom and Ofcom have become very aggressive in that arena. But ultimately, it's all about playing within the rules. So adult website operators need to understand what they have to be doing. They need to understand how they have to do it and when they have to do it to keep themselves out of potentially hot water, because otherwise they could be facing stiff attorney general fines, private cause of action, and all of that is certainly something they're going to want to avoid.
Segpay, as you know, has a number of clients in the CAM space. What does this mean down to the content creators themselves? Are they in jeopardy? Is there something they should be doing here that they're not doing?
Yeah, no. I mean, for the content creators that are just broadcasting on these sites, nothing really is going to change for them. There's not going to be any sort of, they're not going to see anything. The only thing that they might see is, like we talked about before, it is possible that you could see a potential downtick in users, because the ultimate number of users that are going on the website, there might be a little bit of a decrease heading into what's probably going to be a massive rollout of age verification across the board. Some users are already used to that. Some sites have already done a great job implementing it. I actually don't really suspect that there's going to be a big change for the CAM model or for the performer content creator, unless, of course, they're running their own platform. Now, this is where things are going to get more expensive, because an individual who is an individual performer who has their own platform, remember, the platform is going to have to be doing age verification. So for those performers and those content creators that have their own sites, there is going to be a substantial increase in costs associated with having to conduct age verification, compliance, having all of your proper legal documents in order so that credit card processors like Segpay can give you the green light and be able to actually process those sites.
Just culturally and politically, there seems to be a backlash against gays and lesbians, transgendered Americans specifically. Do you think all this weighed into the court's decision on this topic, or could it have?
I don't think so. I don't think the court necessarily did, but I do believe that the legislature and the lawmakers who created these age verification laws to begin with, nothing will be able to convince me that the only thing on their mind was protecting children. That's the message they're trying to send, but I don't believe that. I believe this is more about policing what content is out there, having a say in what people can look at. I believe this is an example of the far right very much infringing on, call it their will. So it's frustrating for me because I do believe that's where a lot of this started. But we've seen it historically. We've seen it with various other laws, and they can call these laws whatever they want. Lawmakers can say it's to protect children, to protect religious leaders, protect whoever they want. At the end of the day, we know that there is at least some motivation, if not the biggest motivation, is controlling what content is available online.
Segpay, of course, the slogan is all the way to paid. It's with its merchants from onboarding through all these compliance issues. What can Segpay do to help its merchants right now?
Well, right now, the first thing that Segpay can do, and you're doing it right now, is helping to convey this vital information. The sky is not falling. This is not the end of the adult entertainment industry as we know it. Ultimately, it just means that there's going to be a deeper focus on age verification. There's going to be a larger emphasis on ensuring that websites can prove that they actually have implemented age verification processes, and Segpay will be able to hold hands with their merchants. They will take the time to walk the merchants through the forest, so to speak, and that's through using the various trained personnel they have, and then even referring their merchants to attorneys like myself, who will be able to help get them to the finish line so they can get back to what's most important, which is ultimately selling their product, making money.
And on that education note, Segpay is sponsoring a webinar that you're hosting and taking part in, I think, July 10th. Do you want to talk about that, Corey, and how people can tune in?
Yep, we are very excited about this opportunity made possible by Segpay. This is it's a free event. It's going to go probably for about 90 minutes or so. As you correctly said, it's on July the 10th. Anyone can go to Eventbrite and sign up for it for free. We are going to do a deep analysis of the case. There's going to be myself, another First Amendment lawyer, and we're also going to have Mike Stabile of the Free Speech Coalition, so that we can really lay this out, have a conversation about it. We are expecting there are a lot of people that are hurt today. I think there's a lot of people that are upset, and rightfully so. The point of this seminar, though, is going to be to really talk it out, talk about what happened, why it happened, where we're going from here. So we're really excited about that, and I encourage anyone who hasn't had the opportunity to sign up for that yet. Segpay is promoting it heavily. My office is promoting it heavily through our X handle, My Adult Attorney, where we offer links for you to go to Eventbrite and sign up for this webinar for free.
And Corey, like you say, the fight's not really over. This could still go down to state levels, and states could allow this to happen, correct? Without age verification. Access, I mean.
Well, some states don't have age verification laws, and it's not on their agendas. It's not really that important to them. So nothing really is going to change there. But there are some states that have been waiting to put forth their age verification bills until the Supreme Court ruled on this. And now that the Supreme Court has ruled on it, I do anticipate we are going to see more states introducing age verification. But I think there'll be some states that won't have age verification laws. I can't specifically tell you how long that's going to last or which ones, but there are various states that have a far more liberal population, a far more liberal, where there will be less emphasis on spending money on this sort of.
Any final thoughts or words of wisdom or advice, Corey, to online merchants in the adult space?
It's a historic day. This is a day that we've been waiting for a long time. The United States Supreme Court hasn't ruled directly on a case impacting the adult entertainment like this in decades. And so I can understand the frustration, the hurt that a lot of people are feeling out there. But my message to everyone is keep your chin up and remember that the adult entertainment industry is strong and it continuously has survived no matter how many times conservatives try to knock it down. So keep your chin up, make sure you're talking to your legal professional so that you know exactly what you need to do. And tomorrow the sun will rise again.
All right. Well, Corey, thank you for joining us on this historic day, as you called it. This is why we've set up the Segpay News Network, where we can inform our merchants, especially on breaking news like this. So the attorney, Corey Silverstein, joining us today to talk about the massive Supreme Court decision on age verification in Texas. Corey, thank you so much. And please stay tuned to the Segpay News Network for more on this developing situation.
Thank you, Mark.